everyone! Today we are going to be talking all about relationships. I asked for your questions, you sent them in, so let's get started. The first question is from Bethany and she says, was Tom your first relationship and what was it like meeting him for the first time? Yes, Thomas is my first relationship and I hope my only relationship. And before I get started, I'm actually going to give a little bit of backstory because I know I'm going to get comments like, she's only been in a relationship for 6 months, but our story is incredibly different to other stories. So basically, when Thomas and I first started talking, he told me that he was poorly. I didn't really think much of it because I didn't know the severity of his illness, but it turned out that Tom really wasn't very well. So basically, we have been together for just over 6 months. But in that 6 months, it's definitely not been easy. It has not been the normal start to a relationship. A few months before I met Thomas, he was diagnosed with what's called aplastic anemia. And this year, to treat his illness, he had to have chemotherapy and radiotherapy. He wasn't a cancer patient, he didn't have cancer, but the treatment he had was practically the same as what a cancer patient has, to my understanding anyway. So he was being treated in the teenage cancer ward, and we did kind of keep this very, very low key because we didn't want to be inundated with messages like, hope you're both okay, things like that. But in the 6 months that we've been a couple, we have spent most of our nights staying on the teenage cancer ward in the hospital. It definitely hasn't been easy and I've had to do a lot of growing up in these 6 months, but we have been through some pretty hard times that even a lot of married couples haven't been through. So I feel like we're a lot closer than normal relationships would be at 6 months, purely because we've been through that together now. And I suppose also when you're in that atmosphere in the teenage cancer ward, when you're around cancer patients and you're getting to know the nurses and you're talking to doctors together about medication and treatment, it really makes you bond because you feel like you're in that together, and I felt like I was a part of his journey. So even though we've only been together for 6 months, it's only since 2 weeks ago that we could actually leave either Tom's house or the hospital together. It's the first time we've gone out in public and been able to do normal things like go to the cinema or go and have a Nando's, because Thomas's levels are finally high enough for him to be out in public. All to do with his immune system and fighting off infections, stuff like that. But we will explain all that. So that is the backstory. We are incredibly close. Thomas has now had his chemotherapy, radiotherapy and bone marrow transplant, and he is on the mend. So getting better. I'm sure we'll make a video about it when he's fully recovered, but that might be a while away. But that's what's been going on. So yeah, been together 6 months, but basically been through something that a married couple has been through. And I think meeting Tom for the first time, it was at his house. He wasn't having treatment at the time that I met him. It was very scary because obviously we started talking online. He lives 200 odd miles away from me. And the first time I met Thomas was actually the day after I went to Hull Fair with Molly and Alice. So Molly got the train with me to Leeds. We went shopping for the morning and then I went to meet Thomas in the afternoon. So I had Molly there to sort of calm my nerves, but I was so nervous. It was unreal. But after literally like 2 minutes after we first met, then we were both fine and it wasn't awkward at all. But yeah, it was very, very scary, and I'm so glad that Molly was with me for that morning because I probably would have been sick. The next question is from Rachel and she says, I feel like no one will ever like me in a relationship way. Any advice? I know exactly where you're coming from, Rachel, because I used to feel exactly the same as you. When I was in school, I always felt like, where on earth am I going to meet someone, because I wasn't into clubbing. Obviously, I was working from home, so I didn't know who was out there or where they were. I would just say, stick it out, because you will find someone that will love you in a relationship way. Eventually, it just takes time, and to think there are like, how many people are in the world? 7 billion, something like that. It's not going to be a breeze finding the one person that is right for you. I think while you're young, just enjoy being single, enjoy having fun, enjoy meeting new people. I think that quite often, as soon as you stop actively seeking for something, it happens to fall into your life. So just stop looking and don't worry about it, because you will find someone one day, I promise you. Kerry says, how old do you think you should be when having children? My answer for this is not like most people's. Personally, my opinion is that if you are in a stable relationship, you can financially support a child, and my personal preference is I would like to be married before I have children. Those are the 3 things I want to tick off before I have children. But I think if you have that at a young age and you feel ready to have children, then I think that's totally down to you. I think there's a massive stereotype around teenage mums that they're not good parents and stuff like that, which is totally untrue, because I myself know a few teenage mums and they are some of the best parents that I know. I don't think it's bad to have children at a young age, as long as you can financially support them and you can emotionally support them and you are with someone who wants to be on that journey with you, I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally. What is it like having a long distance relationship? How do you make it work? It's definitely not easy. The worst part is when I come home from Tom's house, because for the next few days I feel quite down and I really miss him. I miss being around someone 24/7, and I often find myself feeling really lonely in those few days when I come home. But then I also think it's so exciting being in a long distance relationship, because I had never been to Leeds in my life. So every time I go to Thomas's, I'm exploring a new area, I'm hearing different accents, I'm meeting new people, I'm meeting all of Tom's friends, because obviously I didn't know them because they live 200 miles away. And I also really like that when I go to Leeds, it is like I'm just escaping my normal life for a week or so. I don't have to think about anything else, I don't have to think about driving, I don't have to think about work, I don't have to think about any problems I have because I can't fix them when I'm there. And I think that's one of my favourite aspects about it. But to make it work, we FaceTime practically every single day. How do you cope when you're single and everyone else seems to be in relationships? I honestly don't know, because this wasn't really something I ever struggled with. When I was single, practically all of my friends were in relationships and it didn't bother me in the slightest. I like hearing about other people's relationships and I never felt left out of that. I never felt like I wanted to be in a relationship. It just happened, and I think that's the way to be if you can be. Obviously, if it's bothering you, then you can talk to your friends about it and say, do you know what, I feel a bit left out. And they'll probably try and tone themselves down so they won't talk about their relationship as much. But I think the way to cope with it is just enjoy being single, because you're not going to be single forever. So don't let it bother you that other people have reached that phase in their life and you haven't, because everyone's lives move at different paces and there's nothing you can do about that. So just enjoy life in the moment. When do you think you'll get married? How old would you want to be? Obviously, I don't know when I'm going to get married. I don't really have control over that. I have kind of a similar opinion as the children thing. My opinion on marriage is, if you feel like you've found the person you want to spend your life with, why wouldn't you want to spend as long as possible being married to them? Does that make any sense? I'd like to be married quite young because I'd like to look nice in my wedding pictures, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I want to get married like this year or anything though, because definitely not. How are you so good at looking into the future / thinking about kids with your boyfriend? It would scare me a bit, I think. I have always been a very maternal person. I've always wanted a family. I've always dreamed about things like getting married and having children. And I think Tom is exactly the same as me in that sense. He's also really excited to do stuff in the future, so neither of us are scared by it, but I think fair enough, if that would scare you off, I can see exactly why it would. But I think that's the reason why I found it so easy, because I found someone who's also really excited about that. I can't give you any advice really, other than if you're excited about something, share your feelings. The next question is, how do you let yourself believe and fall in love again after being hurt and let down by people you trusted? I can't speak from personal experience here because I don't feel like I have been let down, but I think the way you have to view it is that no two people are exactly the same. Just because one person's hurt you and let you down in the past, it doesn't mean that someone else is going to do it in the future. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I don't think you can let past relationships affect your future ones, because like I say, everyone is different, every single relationship is different, so really it's hard to compare them. But try not to let yourself be scared by it, because relationships are a good thing. It's happy, it's exciting, falling in love is a good thing, and I honestly wish it on every person, and I know that you will find it whether you've been hurt in the past or not. The next question is, how did you and Tom meet? I guess we met online, but I wouldn't really put it like that because that sounds like we actively seeked for each other. Is seeked a word? I don't know. But basically, the first time that Tom saw me was on YouTube, because that is where I plaster my face on the internet. And it was also at this time that Tom was writing a blog post about his illness and he wanted to raise awareness for aplastic anemia, so he decided to message me. The first message he sent was something like, hey, I've written this blog post, would you mind retweeting the tweet? Something like that, something proper standard when people are trying to promote themselves. So I kind of just looked at it like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll have a look at your post. I read it and I was so intrigued about the actual illness because I'd never heard of anything like it before. So I messaged Tom, asked him some questions about it, and from there, we kind of just got talking, and the rest is history. Who farted in front of each other first? Who do you think, Olivia? It was definitely Thomas. He is a little fart machine. The next question's from Millie, and she says, any tips on getting past the awkward stage of a relationship as quick as possible? I think the main goal is to find your common ground as quick as possible. Once you find something you're either both interested in, or you've both done before, or you both want to do in the future, that then gives you a talking point that you can kind of run with. Even if it's something like you've both been to Tenerife, you can talk about Tenerife. opens up a whole can of other conversations, and voila, you have now left the awkward stage. Gabby says, why do I get bored of everyone? Honestly, same. I've always found it really difficult to maintain relationships, like friendships and stuff like that. Not necessarily because I get bored of a certain person, just because I get bored of my life in that moment, and I feel like if I start everything fresh, then I'm gonna feel a lot better. So I accidentally used to cut people out and stuff. But I think when it comes to relationships, if you're actively seeking for one, then you're going to get bored because you know there's plenty more fish in the sea. But I think when someone accidentally stumbles into your life, it's a lot less boring. I've just noticed this picture's really wonky. For some reason, it's no longer level with the rest, but at least it's not wonky. Please try and ignore that. I'm really sorry I pointed it out. But like I was saying, when someone stumbles into your life and you're not expecting it, and you click and you realise that they are the person, the last thing you will do is get bored of them, because then everything seems more exciting. You feel like you're doing everything for the two of you. When you're working, it's for the two of you. You can plan the future, you can plan little day trips, and you are always getting to know more about that person. So it won't be boring. You've just got to wait until you find that person, I suppose. The next question is, do you believe in love at first sight? This is going to sound like such a cliche answer, but personally, I don't think there is such thing as love at first sight. I think you always fall in love with someone's personality rather than their looks, because if they have good looks but they don't have a good personality, then you're not going to be able to love that person as much as you might want to. So I don't believe in love at first sight. I think you can find someone attractive at first sight, but I wouldn't call that love, personally. And the final question is, what is the best and worst part about a relationship? I'm going to start with the negative and then finish on a positive. So I find that the worst thing about being in a relationship, other than missing him because it's a long distance, I get so paranoid that I'm not a good girlfriend. Obviously, Thomas always reassures me. He's always telling me how much he appreciates me and things like that. But I just get so paranoid when I sit there and think to myself, and I'm like, could I be doing this better? Could I be doing that? Should I be doing this? Because obviously it's my first relationship and I want to get it right because I don't want to lose this one. So I think the paranoia, I don't really enjoy that. That's probably the worst thing, other than obviously missing him a lot when I'm at home. And I think the best thing about being in a relationship is building memories with someone, because you can go through your whole life building memories by yourself and you can remember things. But when you have memories together and you can reminisce and talk about those things as a couple, that's a really nice feeling, because quite often it's just the two of you that have that memory, and that feels really special. So I like building memories and I like being excited about the future together. So that is all the questions that I'm going to be answering today. I'm so sorry if I didn't answer your question, but hopefully I will answer it in my next Q&A. I hope that this video helped some of you, or that you just enjoyed it. If you did, let me know down in the comments below. Do subscribe and you can see my videos every Monday and every Thursday. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in Thursday's video. Bye!